terrible things, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him is no darkness.
Okay.
If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and do not the truth. But if we walk in the light, and he is the light, we have fellowship the one with another, and the blood of Jesus Christ, his Son, cleanses us from all sin. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us.
Praise the Lord. So basically, if you take that, it's I would say that's saying to us that God has called us to be in the light. And there are times when, if either way you want to take it, when we move out of the light, or the light moves and we're not moving with the light, and that we end up in darkness. But that should be, as we grow in Him, that should become more and more foreign. Foreign is not the word I'm looking for. That should be more and more uncomfortable for us. That if we ever find ourselves moving away from the light, it should become uncomfortable. And he says simply the remedy is confess our sins. I'm sorry, Lord, and step back into the light and keep walking in the light. Be comfortable in the light. And because that's God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. And if we say we're walking with him, but we walk in darkness, then there's something wrong. If we say we're walking with him and we choose to walk in darkness, then there's something wrong. We are called to walk in the light. We are the light of the world. Praise the Lord. Okay. Somebody say something. I do like, as much as I like, I don't like it. I don't like being in control actually. So I don't like talking because it's not. So, anyone, Uncle Joshua.
I'm trying to grab a hold of
Where we're going.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about the walking in the light. Okay. I'm seeing one of the two answers over there. Can we help Uncle Joshua on our journey so far?
Well, here we are walking in the light, and but I think you were trying to essentially. Okay, I guess we're emphasizing these from the teachings that we said. Just emphasizing the importance, why it's important that, well, we start from the beginning with that there's been a significant difference between the time that we actually started on this walk to where we are right now. There's been a big progress to how we understand things. And as you continue to grow with God, that has been somewhat over us, has become more evident. The closer we say, the closer we got into God, the more in line we have got into Him. The light that is over us has become more evident, has become brighter. And how we should not be people that shy away from this light, because essentially the scripture that we read, the whole point of the light that is on us is not even for ourselves, it's to glorify God. In line with the last thing you said, it's one thing that I particularly have realized. It's all about the way I see it. It's all about us being in sync with God and understanding what He wants, because there could be a particular season where, because you said something about if God moves, then we essentially should be in sync with Him to move as well, and for life, in essence, be with us. Or if there's a season where we just have to wait and we just have live in, we're probably going out or away from the light that is Christ. That's
Okay. Shall I continue? No, 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 I'll
Yeah.
continue. No. Fine. Yeah, I've had a moment to recruit. So yeah, this is why I like you guys talking. But anyway, Isaiah chapter 60 says, "Arise, shine. Why? For thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. And the Gentiles shall come to thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see. All they gather themselves together, for they come to thee. Thy son shall come from far, and thy daughter shall be nursed at thy side." So again, it says, "Arise and shine." So in some senses, preparing ourselves to walk in the light is preparing ourselves for the glory of God to be seen in us and on us. And it's the glory of God, the anointing of God that attracts people, that attracts people, all manner of people to to Him through us. Um, and so God uses us. God uses us. So could we say that God uses us as points of contact in this world? That's why we've been. First Peter 2 verse 9 says something along the lines of, "For we are a chosen generation, a peculiar people, a holy nation, and something else, a royal priesthood,
and to show forth the praise of Him
to show forth the praise of Him that did what?
that calls you out of darkness
That
into His
called us
marvelous
out
light.
of darkness into this marvelous, marvelous light." Okay, so again, I'm going to stop for a second. We're still talking about the light. Right. How many of us have a consciousness of the fact that we are called to walk in the light?
Can I,
So,
can
as
I,
in,
can I take a step back maybe? Not to, but what have we defined what the light is? Because I know it might seem like a simple question, but then it kind of focuses us on what exactly we're getting at. Because it can be, because if you ask that question, potentially you can get different answers.
okay, good question. What is the light? So I've been talking about light so far. What is that light? Everyone's looking.
No, 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 no.
Because I don't know, maybe the direction you just talked to them, because I haven't really been saying, I don't think I really forgot. And I think there's one light that there's potentially different aspects to it. And I think the way you're talking about it is essentially the glory of God being evident in every single one of our lives. So that can manifest itself in so many different ways. But then likewise, someone may say light is truth, and truth essentially is Christ. Um, so I think there's different aspects to it, what is called in one. But I think the light, well, essentially you're saying the same thing because for the glory of God to be evident in us, someone has to see God in us. You're essentially seeing the works of God, the manifestations of God's gifts, and it can manifest itself in truth. It can manifest itself in good works, in by God's side. So I guess from the perspective that you're taking, I would say the light is the glory of God being evident.
So the glory of God, it's the presence of God, it's what God has called us to do. It's I guess if I say it, the light is Matthew 5:14 says you are the light of the world. No one lights a candle and puts it under a bushel, but it's there. So let men see your good works, so that God may be glorified. The light is it's God around us. It's Christ in us. It's the fruit of the Spirit growing and being manifested. It's doing good works, the works that God has called us to do before, that He has ordained us to do before we came into this world. It's doing the things. It's yeah. It's yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Does that answer
Yeah.
the question? That's the light. The light is God's presence, and God being in control. And again, back to being an actor. It's almost like you following the script. So the actor follows the script. The actor, I don't know whether this works as an analogy. The actor, this might take me back, but the actor, when the spotlight is not on the actor, goes back to being who he is. He may have a completely different nature to the person he's acting as. But when the spotlight's on him, he's acting. Now, I think for us, when the spotlight's on us and when the spotlight's not on us, our goal is to be the same person. And I think God gives us an insight into who He wants us to be when the spotlight is on us. And I think we have to take that away. And when the spotlight is not on us, still act.
In light of what we kind of defined the light to be, then wouldn't you say that the spotlight is never off us?
Yeah, that's pretty much very true.
So
That's my point.
yeah, okay,
The spotlight is ultimately, the spotlight is always on us, and we have to get to the point where we become comfortable in who He has called us to be, and not in who we were or who the flesh wants us to be. Because the truth of the matter is, wherever we go, we are called to shine. That's 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 our purpose. Our purpose as a church, our purpose as individuals is to go and shine in the darkness. And I said, I think a lot of times we either make excuses, or we're fearful, or we're not confident enough to stand out as light. We actively shy away from the light when we should be putting ourselves forward and saying, I stand for truth, I stand for honesty, I stand for this. Sometimes we find it difficult. But I think a lot of us, whether we like it or not, are in the light. And people recognize the light in us. So those of you that don't drink, and people around you know you don't drink. Those of you that there's something about you that people, I think it's a compliment when someone says, it's not a compliment really, but when someone says to you, I thought you were a Christian, it's kind of a compliment that it means they've caught you doing something they shouldn't be doing, but they put you, the light was on you. So it's kind of a compliment in some ways. It's that kind of compliment. But anyway, so that does that. So are we all what everyone on the same page?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree with what you said. But no, there's no but. Um, maybe it's a bit more deep than that. But I'm just trying to think. I'm glad we've kind of clarified that light isn't like this light here. If you understand what I'm saying? Like this. If you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Um, but I believe this light here kind of shows us. I think light in itself is too wonderful to be like kind of explained to us that it was explained to us in this form, or if you understand what I'm saying, we can equate it to light like that. But I think what's important about it is the characteristics that light has and how it kind of reveals things and exposes things and is always truthful. Like when this light, like if there was darkness, you can be deceived, but in light you can't be deceived. Like light shows you the truth. It shows you what is there in it. If this room was dark, you wouldn't know what is there. But light actually shows you what is there. It shows truth. It shows revelation. And I think when the Bible describes about walking in this light as he also was in this light, it kind of defines how we should live our life because he was the light of the world. And we also become lights of the world by doing what he did. But it's like on this earth, we should have the same impact as light does on this earth. That's the only way I can kind of describe it. But I don't know physically or categorically how that is shown. But I think you said it through works, through people seeing you. And the glory of God is just evident because light is truly derived from God. It truly came out of God. And unless we can't shine as lights unless we use what he has given unto us. It's impossible for anyone to make themselves alive. You can't make yourself alive. Like it all comes solely from God. But I just don't know how to describe it.
Okay.
Saying with like
No, that's the question. The question. You know, you get some Christians in quotes that people don't like because they say they look down on others. Have you ever had?
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Because they say they think they're
Some do, but some don't.
right. How does that fit in with what we're saying? Is that light?
Yeah.
But some
I don't think for someone to pop
Yeah.
himself up because you have to firstly understand that everything we have is through grace. That's the way I've been always taught. So I would never ever think of myself higher, highly than someone else because of the fact that I know that everything I have is through grace. And the only reason why it seems like, or the reason why I've been exalted is because of the natural glory of God and because I'm exposed to truth. Whereas somebody yet hasn't been exposed to that truth in the fullness of how we're exposed to that truth. So yes, they're living a life through deception because their eyes can't see what we can see. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mhm.
So I never try to look down on anyone, but I try to bring them to see what I can see because I was once in their position. That's the way I always look at it. I can understand why certain people do certain things because their eyes haven't been opened. Imagine Saul, for example, who thought he was doing the right thing in killing all of these people that were following Christ. He actually thought he was doing the work of God until his eyes was open. Then he realized and come to the revelation of what he was doing. There's some people that are living in sin, but they honestly think because I'm not hurting no one that they're doing what is right. Or I've never tried to But it's different when someone else has been exposed to the same truth as you. If you understand what I'm saying, it's a different judgment, a different way in which I would tackle it. I'll be like, you should know better. And if someone feels that I'm looking down on them because of that, it's not that I'm looking down on them, it's just that you have been revealed what I've been revealed, why I'm walking in this way. And sometimes our brothers and sisters need that correction. But when somebody is blinded because they haven't been exposed to truth, I don't think we should look down on them, but we should allow them to see what we see. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, 2 Corinthians chapter 4. Let's go through 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, from verse 3, actually, 3 to 6. It says, but if our gospel is hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. For we preach not ourselves, but Christ Jesus the Lord, and ourselves your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, have shined in our hearts, to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. From 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, from 3 to 6. So that's basically saying what you're saying. Some people are blinded, but he says we preach Christ, not ourselves. And I think the person who may come across as being pompous is saying, look at me, I'm blah 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 blah, why can't you be like me? But we are not to preach ourselves, we are to preach Christ. And basically it's, as it says, and our self-service for Christ's sake. And it's him who has given us the knowledge that we can walk in. And I think I'm not sure that it's a thin line, but it probably is a thin line to understand that yes, everything we have been given by grace. The flip side to that is not, so we shouldn't think more highly, but I think we also shouldn't think more lowly than ourselves. And a lot of times we can bring ourselves down and not accept that this is God. And I think it's almost the same thing in reverse. When God is using you, but you now, I think we do it. I think this is, I don't know, say it, it's us trying to be humble.
Yeah, some people call it humility.
It's us trying to be humble, but whether it is, yeah, we should just accept that. Look, this is God. And yeah, Paul, was it Paul, Peter, when they were at the gate of the man at the gate, the man at the beautiful gate,
Peter
and
and
they
John.
said, look, why are you guys surprised? It's not like we are anything, but it is Christ in us that is doing all that we're doing. And I think part of embracing being in the spotlight is realizing that truth, that on one level, anyone could do what, yeah, anyone could do what God is using you to do. Anyone could do what God is using you to do. And it is the grace of God that allows you to stand in whatever position or do whatever it is you're doing. But without the grace of God, anyone who's God decided to anoint could do what you're doing. And I think part of humility is understanding that and realizing that, yeah, this is God being good to me. It is Ephesians chapter 5, verse, actually you can read it was verse 8, but if you read from verse 8.
For you were sometimes darkness, but now are you light in the world. Walk as children of light.
Keep going.
For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord, and have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame
even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. For all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doth make manifest is light. Wherefore he said, Awake thou that sleepeth, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light.
Praise the Lord.
Um,
Ephesians 5 from 8 through to about 14. Again, he's saying, and that's a lot of what Paul did, was he would teach and teach and teach, and then afterwards he said, now that you understand what you've been taught, walk in the light, walk in the light, walk in the light, walk in the light. Yeah, a lot of, again, you can bring it down to a lot of our churches. If we were walking in the light as a church, then there are certain things, not even just as a church, as a people of God, if we're walking in the light, there are lots of things that he says shouldn't even be mentioned amongst us. He shouldn't even be mentioned. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, a couple more, and then we can call it quits. Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 13.
Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, and as far as life excelleth darkness.
And as far as what?
Light excelleth darkness. 2 verses 13.
And I saw that wisdom
Excelleth folly.
and light excelleth over darkness. So that's Solomon, the wise man. Okay, question. We've got a few minutes. Question. Is it okay to walk in darkness occasionally?
That's supposed to be a trick question.
I think that's like, that's like,
So what is right?
Yeah.
I know we do it, but it's not a thing that we should do. It says
Right, so we all agree that we shouldn't do it. We all agree that it doesn't make sense to walk in darkness.
Yeah.
But we all
we let them.
but we all do it. Okay. Because okay. Is there and this is not me, this is us being, so is there a disconnect somewhere? We all, it's not a trick question. It's not a trick question.
I think it's deception as well. It's deception why we feel into like, yes, we know the truth, but for a time we forget or we ignore that truth. And it's very easy to do. It's very easy to ignore. Like, your mom gives you an instruction. It's very easy to ignore, an instruction that we can be given. It's very easy to think, oh, that doesn't matter. It's very easy when you're living under grace to say, it's very easy. I think if people were dying, like they're stricken off straight away as they commit a sin, people would feel their life.
But then when
Very easy.
I get what you're saying, but if you think about in the times when people were getting stricken off,
Yes.
when that didn't change the people from doing it. And the way I would put it is that they didn't. How could they forget when it happened the last day, the day before
remember-
people got wiped out?
I remember a lot of times God would say, remember, or you understand me, like, remember what I did for you.
Yeah, but that was him teaching the next generation. The way I would put it, but I don't know if you can put it as it's a difficult one. If you could put it as walking in darkness, the way I'll put it is the way the Bible puts it in one place where it says the spirit wars against the flesh and the flesh wars against the spirit. Because the Bible says it's an ongoing battle. There are times when the battle is won by the flesh, but what must happen is that the spirit must win the war. That's the way I would put it.
All right. How does the spirit win the war? Because it sounds like, and I'm probably playing devil's advocate here. The flesh can win the battle.
Well, the flesh wins battles because that's what we clearly see in our lives. We clearly see times where Jesus, we need him more. But we have from when I say the spirit wins the war, it's a case of from the foundation of the earth we were put into his place, into the place Christ prepared for us, and that is his spirit in us winning the war against the flesh.
Right. So if we're losing battles, if we're losing, and this isn't a good question, if we're losing battles, where are we losing the battles?
Yeah.
Exactly where?
What do you mean where? Do you mean practical examples?
As in where? Second Corinthians 4:4. Because I think that's where we're losing the battle. And if we don't realize that that's where the battle needs to be fought, yes, we may win the war, but then that's a scary prospect to lose battle after battle after battle after battle after battle and hope that at some point in time.
I don't like analogies sometimes because they never portray the full truth in most times.
I think we lose the battle in our minds.
Okay.
That's where we lose the battle. We lose the battle in our minds. Because it's one thing, it's interesting that when the question was asked, we all know the answer. We all know the answer. Should we walk in darkness? Is it allowed to walk in darkness occasionally? Is it can you get to the point where I'm just tired of this light? I just want to step back and not be seen. But the question becomes, why do you want to step back and not be seen?
You want to conform? You want to conform to the flesh?
No, okay, let's look at it from a different point of view in regards to stepping back from the light. Exactly. So I think everyone's got their own things. Like the selection of people that probably don't want to be in the light, probably don't want to do anything, probably are too shy to do anything, they've got their own reasons. The selection of people that are probably stepping out in the light and doing a lot, they've got their own reasons. What am I trying to say? Both sides have their own battles that they're facing. The ones that are not in the light are probably like, I'm a bit shy, or probably like, I'm not that confident, or I don't. And evidently, we would just say, okay, so you evidently want to stay in darkness, and we would just see that as an evil thing. And then you would see someone that probably wants to walk in the light and probably is walking in the light. And then, just like that example, we have a lot of people that are judging. We have a lot of people out there looking down. That instantly, for a lot of people, can what's the word?
Put them off.
Can put them off, can demotivate them. As in the people that are stepping out in the light and are being judged by other people, which is normal, of course. But that can actually demotivate people. And then now this person says, okay, as a result of that, I want to step back a bit. I don't really want, because as attractive when we're young, as attractive as the light may seem, because God says, arise and shine, your light has come. That sounds attractive. But when you're actually in the light, it has its own battles. Exactly. So then, I'm just saying, let's look at it. That there's in God's eyes, there's probably a black and white answer. Well, either in the light, or either in the darkness. But also, let's look at it from other sort of examples, where someone's not necessarily saying, "I want to sin." They're saying, "I just want to just get a step back because everyone's sort of on my case. Like, this is just a bit annoying. Like, this is just a bit too much. Like, I'm not that holy. Like, get off my back, sort of thing." And then there's the other. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, yeah. The reason why I said a bit, don't get me wrong, is because when you first done it took me back to my first question of what is the light, because the when you say step, when I don't know, maybe it's just in my head. When you say stepping out in light, it's like you're kind of saying they're coming to the forefront of a situation, but being in the light or having the light with you, huh? Yeah, it's not necessarily in the forefront of something, but it's being in the truth. Yeah.
But I think with how this world is,
Mm.
if you're walking in any sort of truth, there's going to be opposition. And in a big, and it may seem small to us, but it comes out in a big way because of the way the world system sort of opposes God's system
Yeah.
in so many ways.
Mm.
So it's like,
No, I get you.
the,
I get you.
Okay, but ultimately, ultimately, God wants us to. Ultimately, not what God wants. Ultimately, God commands us to walk in the light.
but how do we, like I know we're saying that God wants to do good, but I think we also need to tackle the practical aspects of what we do. Huh? So we need to talk about the issues that being of being in the spotlight based on that definition of, let's say, the glory of God being God. Basically God's truth being evident in us. Let's just say that, like, we walk in accordance to what Jesus Christ said.
I
What
don't
are
think, I don't think, I understand what you're saying, but light doesn't announce itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Light doesn't have a mouth that goes, "I am the light and come look at me."
it
The light just is there and naturally is seen by people.
Exactly.
It naturally draws people.
exactly, but that doesn't mean there's no opposition.
No, there
Just
is opposition. Darkness is what light is when it comes to
No,
darkness.
I mean the opposition from a perspective of what
People say no
causes,
to royalty.
yeah, stuff like that, yeah.
I know what you're saying,
Like what causes,
but maybe we just have I'm just different. Like I don't really care. So, like that's just me. Like I know I'm not in it, but when people just like yeah, exactly.
I mean, I actually understand where Anna's coming from, and I understand her
What,
point. I
like, do
think
you
it's
feel like
about
people
the
don't?
no, it's about the pressure. The thing
I
is
think
like,
it genuinely-
wait, are you wait? The thing is that with the spotlight, when spotlight is constantly on someone, you are constantly going to get judged from the dark. You're constantly in there in the spotlight, so you have to present yourself in a certain way. Always be on guard. Always be this. It can get
But that's
very
the point.
I don't think you're
so
supposed to live
that
like
can
that.
get a
I
lot,
don't think-
and that's what the light is. That's what you meant to walk in conjunction.
But then-
I understand you walk in conjunction with the light, but you don't. It's like
I
that
like-
mindset.
that's the
That
thing.
mindset is like, okay, because people are watching, let me act this way. But when I get home, I
No.
what I
No,
want
do you know what I'm
to
saying?
The light is meant to be like that. You're meant to be
Yeah.
walking like that,
Yeah.
but you need to have it in mind that okay, you're still going to be getting it. So obviously, at some point, we are humans. So at some point, it will feel, and you just think, you know what? I'd rather just go hide in the cave for now than me to
that's
just. So it's
but
just pressure sometimes.
that's
To be
one
honest, we're
aspect.
human.
That's the
I get
thing.
what you're saying.
I know what you're saying. eh?
I'm trying to
You-
do that.
Okay, fair enough. We really shouldn't conform to people's standards. Like just like you said, we were just like, okay, just because people, okay, just because people, okay, you know what you said, but just because people are looking at us, it doesn't necessarily mean that we should conform. But what I'm saying, but that's the point I'm trying to make, that these are one of the struggles that we are facing. Not us, probably particularly,
No, but I think it's
But
something that we should address.
exactly because it's one of the and this is just one aspect of it. Or this is one of the struggles that we are facing that is causing us wanting to shy away from this light. That's what I'm saying, because it's all well and good knowing that God wants us to do this. But what is causing us not because there's there was a time that, let's say, when I started in my faith, that I wanted to be in the light because this sounds attractive. Then when you're in the light and it on a continuous basis, it doesn't seem that attractive anymore.
I think if
So
you
then-
continue to, but let's say example pure music. If you continue to look at the problems that light will bring, you will never manifest in the glory of God. If you continue to, no, because it's an issue that we have to address
Yeah.
because it's a problem. And I understand where you're coming from. I just don't know. I get what you're saying. Like people come up to me and say, "Oh, I never knew you were like this. I thought you were a holy guy." I just look at them like, "Really? Wait." I don't know what body's showing you. But I think if you continue to focus on what people are going to say and how many people come up to you and say you're very holy and this and that and that, I think you're getting diverted off what you should be focusing on. Like, do your work, innit? Carry on moving with Christ and don't worry. And I know that what people say will get to you because we're all human in that. But to tell you the truth, you can't worry about what people say. And I think if you use people as an excuse, God ain't gonna be like, okay, let me show you compassion because of what people are saying to you.
Which I agree, which is why it's that big of a tackle.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's another thing I'm gonna say is that okay, there's different types of people.
Nothing here because I still think you are.
Sure.
I understand.
No, but like that's what I'm saying. Like, there's just different avenues to it. Like, there's the type of person that probably naturally cares about what people think consistently, and there's a type of person that is probably more focused on God on a consistent basis. But sometimes, sometimes the way the devil messes with your head, sometimes things get to your head, and you're just like, every night. That's what I'm saying. How do we address issues like that?
On one level, it's like the example that Morty was about to say, that when Peter was walking on the water, he saw the truth, Jesus Christ in front of him. Come to me, like, good, I'm on it. Starts walking now. And the Bible describes that there was a boisterous wind. If we practicalize that, that is every influence that takes us off the focus of him will make us to sink. Only when he now had the hand of Jesus pulling him up that he could recover. So when we could talk about individual situations, what it comes back to is, and what will keep us would be his hand holding us up. There is no way that you can kind of be in the light, walk in the light and hear people's voices and that influencing you, because that influence to God is you thinking. God is not concerned about what the wind around you does or the wind around you says. He's concerned about, are you obeying my voice? That's why sometimes a don't care attitude, as what he would put it, is not a don't care attitude in a sense. It's a focused attitude. It's an unwavering from the truth attitude. Have I made a point?
Yeah, praise the Lord. I think the interesting point there is, and I think what we need to, I think the issue here is our minds and what we're focused on, how we use our minds, how we imagine. And one thing to say is that from the story of Peter walking on the water, it shows us that if we take that and apply it to our walk with, we all, I think the two things we have to have stamped in our heads for this journey to be slightly easier. One, God commands us to be in the light. He is light. He expects us to walk in light. Like I went to see Samuel, he is looking at us and expecting us to walk in the light. That's his expectation of us. Doesn't matter what darkness is around us. We have to be aware of. You see, yes, there are. Everyone has demons that they're dealing with, but we have to be aware of. We have to be proactive in stopping, keeping those demons at arm's length. And if we become, if we, there could be three things. So one is that we're commanded to walk in the light. Two is that we have what it takes to walk in the light. We have to understand we have what it takes to walk in the light. The moment that I ask the question, is it okay to walk in darkness? And everybody says no. Then you know that you have what it takes to walk into the light. The third thing, which I've probably now forgotten, is that no, the third one was that the third one is that it's gone. We have what it takes. We're commanded to walk in the light. Third one is to do with pressure. Third one is to do with pressure. Oh, it's gone. I can't. But what question was I trying to answer?
He was like, it was asked the box in the trees that not in the way that things always on the real for that always
Mind. Mind.
Or it starts off in the moment you say,
Oh, I can't remember. Like it's gone. But there's another point. But ultimately, I think ultimately it's no. That's the third. The third thing is this. The third thing is this. The third thing is this. If the third thing is this, and this is probably the hardest bit. The third thing is this: we are called. We're called, but we are children of light. That's in deep down in our new nature. That's what we are. We're children of light. Darkness is supposed to be something that's repulsive to us. That's in us. That's our new makeup. If I find myself struggling with my identity, and that's a struggle when you're in the light and it's taking its toll on us. I'm struggling with my identity. I'm struggling with the truth of who I am. There's a battle going on between, I guess, the flesh and my spirit. I have to get to the point continually where my mind tells me it shouldn't be an act. Being in the light shouldn't be an act. If it's an act, then there's something wrong. And if it's an act, then it will weigh you down because you're putting on this thing. And if you don't understand that it is by God's grace, then you're trying to do something that only God's grace can do. You're trying to present something that actually leave it to God. God will beautify you and God will make all things beautiful in its own time. We have to, I guess, be honest with ourselves, be truthful with others, because but if we're trying to, and I think that's what happens a lot of times, we're trying to defend the position that we don't think we deserve to have. And that's hard. That's hard when you're trying to present yourself as something that you don't believe you are. Because after a while, you will get tired. You can't continue to fight a battle that you're not called to fight. So I think that's the third thing. I think that's the hardest thing, is us realizing that yes, he wants us to be perfect, but to be perfect in him. He wants us to be righteous, but to be righteous in him, not in ourselves. We're not called to look good. He will make us look good. And I think that's where we begin to get serious breakthroughs with God, when we realize that as I am, he will still use me. And then all of a sudden, you really don't care what people think. And it's not a don't care attitude, it's just what's the point? People will be people will be people. Whether you're good, they'll talk about you. Whether you're bad, they'll talk about you. So any which way, the same same person that steps down from the spotlight, they'll talk about. So what's you can't win either which way. You do it, they'll talk about you. You don't do it, they'll talk about you. So let them talk. That's I think the way I would as long as he is happy, that's all that really matters. It can be. I'm not saying, and that's why I think we have to prepare. We have to be prepared to walk in the light, because if you're not prepared and you're just thrown into the light, yes, the light looks attractive, but if you're not prepared for what comes with it, it can be hard. It can be really hard because all of a sudden you're putting on your mentality becomes one of you're performing. You're performing. You're trying to. Every time you go up there, you're trying to. And it's I couldn't. Yeah, there are people that preach, and every time they step up there, they're trying to out preach the next person, or they're trying to show that they have some really deep insight into. And that's yeah, for me that's just suffering. Really, it really is. It really is suffering. As Paul said, as much as is in me, will I use to preach? If that's not enough, if God doesn't take what's in you and anoints it to work in others, then you've got no chance. Your eloquence isn't going to get you anywhere. Um, and that's what you think. Anyway, so I think we should round up kind of. I'm not sure where that leaves us, but I'm going to start with Auntie Hannah. So what have you taken from today?
Um,
Okay. Fair enough. Auntie Josiah.
And so, yes, stay in his presence, let his presence indeed us and
Okay. Cool. That works. Uncle Josh.
I've got a question.
You've got a question?
Yeah.
Go on.
There's one scripture that talks about renewing your mind. Can you remind me of that?
Romans 12:2.
Romans 22.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, Romans 2, do not be conformed to this world, is that one?
Mm.
But be transformed by the renewing of your mind,
Yeah.
then you will prove the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God.
That's it. Just in terms of the pressure that you face being in the light, it's interesting to me because it's like you're in the light, you're facing pressure. That's an interesting just circumstance. Um, but it's a clear one, clear to see. And I think the only way that we can um, not be weighed down is by the constant renewing of our mind. Because I think what helps is, if I put it in a very practical example, if someone is told, okay, you need to be in a choir, that's God's instruction for them, and they're in the choir now, and they're perform and people do it anyway. They're like, this person is amazing, whether it be at singing, and and then for one reason or another, they walk walk in darkness as we were talking about, and the spotlight is still on them. So people around them would be like, "What's going on here? What are you doing?" And it might be as little as for the fact that there was a time that they were supposed to be in that thing, and they deprived it just for maybe laziness, forgetfulness. So I think one thing that to me is key is that constantly we must be renewed day by day. Sometimes it's as bad as hour by hour. You could 1 hour you could be like in tune. The next hour you'd be like something comes and you're falling, you're sinking. So what I took home, what I'm taking home is that the pressure will come, but you must that must always be able to hold you up.
Okay, that's
Don't have to be on camera, but I think he's gonna do this. Nobody wants to see my face. Okay, three things. The first thing that you mentioned was that we're children of light. The second, that we're commanded to walk in the light. But for me, the most striking thing is that we actually have what it takes to walk in the light. I think that that's something that we tend to, well, I tend to forget rather, that to walk in the light, it's part of what he's already given us. It's part of our heritage, let me say. Yeah, so there's just those three things. We're children of light, commanded to walk in the light, and we have what it takes to walk in the light.
I would do me. What am I taking from this is that you have to actively realize you have a choice to walk in the light or to walk in darkness, and you have to constantly choose to walk in light. I think I have to constantly choose to walk in light, and 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 the darkness is. You see, the darkness is. The Bible says Satan is subtle. The darkness is very subtle because, as I say, nobody walks in darkness. What we do is we walk away from the light slowly, and the further away we go away from the light, the further we go into darkness. But nobody just jumps from light into darkness. No, it's subtle, and it's learning the subtleties of the demons that are assigned to us, so that we realize that. Because what is subtle to me, somebody else can look at it and think, why is it a big deal? So, for instance, I like music, and generally I listen to old school and hip hop if I'm not listening to gospel music. But yesterday I found myself listening to some rap songs that were just, I'm thinking, why am I listening to this? Really? But it didn't start what's it? Tupac's
Hey, Tupac.
He was a classic. Look,
He was, but he's hardcore, man.
No,
Uncle,
seriously,
that's
the one the song where he was dissing Biggie Small and
hit him up.
yeah.
Oh, Uncle, that's far from the lights. The very first line. What do you say?
It gets you in the zone.
No, Uncle. The first line of that song is horrible.
The whole song is about, why am I listening to this? But the point is, no, because it goes. No, that's a serious song. It's just like sickle cell, and he really did.
Wow, he really did listen to it.
No, I didn't just listen to it. I ended up listening to it. Then I was reading up on the history of it. What am I doing here? But it's, yeah, what the history of it. But it was, yeah. But the point is, it didn't start like that. It probably started 2 weeks before. I was listening to something else, and slowly, you end up. And so it's being aware from the very beginning that actually this has the potential to take you somewhere that you don't want to go.
It's just. I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say it's just kind of like on YouTube, for example, when you play a video and then it has the recommended videos on the side,
Yeah.
and it plays automatically. You know, before you know it, you found yourself all the way.
Genre of music.
What I have learned is how maybe I didn't know about it, but this was kind of related me to a bit more about questioning myself if I actually am walking in that and if I'm consistently walking in that. I think it's kind of a question I have to ask myself every day. And to make myself aware, because slipping into darkness is very easy. It's very easy. Um, I think it's like, as you said, a gradual process where it's like, if you notice, like, you know the lights where it goes dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. Let's say like the first day the light is like full power on, and then the next day it's like 99%, and 98. And that's how gradual it is. It's like you won't even recognize that you've come into darkness, because it was such a slow process. You would have just naturally thought that you would have forgotten what light was. Like you just think like in the time that you're fully deep in darkness, you can think, oh wow, there was a time where I could see. And you just thinking what happened. You're so far away that you don't even have to back there. So I think it's a question that you should ask yourself every day. But at the same time, yeah, as Sister Hannah said, don't worry about what people say. You didn't do it for people in the first place. Yeah, that's the reason why we do this. And I can give you a real incident of like what you were saying. I think when I was first like proper focused on God, it was it took me to an extent that my worship just had to be fully focused on God. And obviously I had a lot of friends in my church. So it came to a point where I couldn't even like sit with them because we just were talking during the service. So I had to sit away from them. And to the extent that it got so deep that I just couldn't talk to anyone during the service. So even if someone said hello to me, I just like look freely, because to the extent that I think people started coming up to me, I said hello to you, and yeah. I said, yeah. Jeremiah to Jeremiah, it's not. Like, me saying hello to you is not going to happen. To the extent like bare people used to come to me and be like, and I just don't, just get to say, yeah. Like, my God was so much important. What I was gaining from not being distracted in the service was so much more. Like people will come out of the service and say that sermon was rubbish. And I'll be like, no, but didn't you hear him say this and this and this and this? They'll be like, no. You know, it was like that. Like I understood like it didn't matter about who was conducting, who was leading the service. God can take you out to somewhere, you understand me, that you just be, what you will gain is unbelievable. So yeah, and that's just a physical example. Yeah.
That's good. That's very good. And we're going to pray one prayer and we're back. Prayer is going to be simply on the road to Damascus. There was a bright light. Did everyone see the light, or did everyone hear the voice?
They all saw the no, they saw the light, but they didn't hear the voice. All
They
saw
all
the
saw the
light.
light.
They all saw the light, but only one
Only-
person heard the
only one
voice.
person heard the voice. I think, listening to what Francis said at the end, I think every time we come into the presence of God, and every time we're not just daily, I think, you know, I was saying before about the lights this big and then sometimes it zeroes in. If we can get to the point where the spotlights, we allow the light of God to zero in on us, there's so much power that we can take from that light if we're in the right place. But I think a lot of times our minds are all over the place, and it's not as concentrated as it needs to be. As you said, 100 people can be in the same sermon, listening to the same words. 90 people walk out and think that was the pile of whatever, and one or two actually hear something that takes them to another level. We're going to pray that
That's wrong. No, I was wrong. They did hear the voice,
they heard the voice,
but they didn't say anyone.
they didn't see yet. We're going to pray that the light of God, you see the light of God, and the way it works is we see the light, we walk out on whatever light tells us, and then people see the light in us. It comes through us for the world to see. And I think every single one of us here is called to be a light in our different circumstances. It's like you yesterday, you're a light just because of service, and other people look at you and think, "Oh, I wish I could replicate that." Every single one of us is called to be a light, and I think we really shouldn't shun away from it. We really shouldn't shun away from it. And some of the things that, and it's not everything is major. Some of the things is just being consistent, being faithful, being helpful, being who God has called you to be. That's all. And over time, God's light shines and God gets the glory. And the more and more we allow God to flow through us, the more and more people will change. It's like churches, we're talking about churches now. A lot of churches are so full of darkness, they don't realize how dark it is. And it would take you taking a whole congregation to a completely different church for a service that was done in the light for them to realize, whoa, so that's what worship is, not this thing that we're doing here.
Even in this darkness, we should just shine.
We should, but we have to embrace being the light. And if we don't embrace being the light, then we won't shine as we should. And it just takes 1, 2, 3, 4 of us to shine, and then someone sees it and they want to emulate, and all of a sudden the light bulb becomes brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter to the point that it then shines fully. And as that happens, darkness has to begin to scatter. As the light shines, darkness begins to go. So it kind of works both ways, hand in hand. But I pray that in our lives, God will be full. God will take us where He wants us to get to. So we're just going to do this with others and Holy Ghost. Any messages this week? We're not doing anything apart from Apoladi's doing the service on Friday, celebrating his birthday, and he's got a barbecue on Saturday. Everyone is invited to Apoladi's barbecue. Somewhere in Sydney between 5 and 9, I imagine. So please come along. And please have it.
Connecting that with the whole
The whole world.
all our subscribers.
Oh, welcome. Oh, welcome. Praise the Lord. Yeah, that's it. Service Friday at Elkington Castle, and then barbecue on Saturday. Next week Sunday, so not this Sunday. Next week Sunday, we're having a Thanksgiving service, youth ministry Thanksgiving service in Life of the Last Parish, which is in East Ham or West Ham.
It's like Manor Parkish.
Manor Park, there you go. Yeah, Manor Park.
On that long road.
Yes, on that long road.
So,
Romford Road.
And long before 7 p.m. from Stratford.
Yeah, it's just off Romford Road. That long.
Yeah. So that's next week Saturday. Next week, not this Friday. Next week Friday, there's a night vigil. There's night vigil in North London Parish. And next week Thursday, not this Thursday, next Thursday, there's a revival, prayer revival at Edward Street. So bear it in mind. We're not streaming, so you need to be there. Praise the Lord. Thursday, Friday, Sunday. And then are you guys still doing the quiz?
No.
Saturday. Yes?
Yeah, yes.
So then there's a quiz next Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Edward.
Where's the quiz?
Edward.
Edward, not Edward.
Yeah.
Okay, so quiz Edward. How many students and how many sessions will take it from?
I don't know how.
More than 2?
Yeah.
I don't know, it might be 1. Praise the Lord. So, God is the Father, Son, Holy Ghost.
Amen. Was it a verse or a song?
Be the hope of
tọ́ ìtọ́ṣán ìmọ́lẹ̀ mímọ́ sí wa. Sọ̀kalẹ̀ fi ògo ọ̀run ayé, tọ́ ìtọ́ṣán ìmọ́lẹ̀ mímọ́ sí wa. Sọ̀kalẹ̀ fi ògo ọ̀run ayé, tọ́ ìtọ́ṣán ìmọ́lẹ̀ mímọ́ sí wa.
We're just going to pray that the Lord should allow us, position us to always walk in His light. The power that comes from walking in His light should manifest in our lives. The power that draws men unto Him through us, the Lord should begin to work through us. And the grace to be able to stand in the light with all the pressure that comes from standing in the light, because we are the light, the Lord should bestow that grace upon us. Pray together.
Jehovah, Jesus Christ, God, my God, our Father, our Lord, we give you the glory to you and your Lord that places in your marvelous light, Lord, except our needs. But we pray, oh God, for the future, oh God, to be true light, oh God, my Jesus, Lord, allow me to do.
Bring us back into the center of your life. Bring us back to the center of your truth. Bring us back to the center of your life. We thank you, Lord. We bless your name. We shall shine Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you, guide and bless you. He has set you on the light of the world, the grace to walk in that which He has called you to be. I pray the Lord will allow to flow through you in every area of the life where darkness is trying to take over. We rebuke in the name of Jesus Christ. We ask for wisdom, we ask for knowledge, we ask for understanding, we ask for our mind to be focused on you. Heavenly Father, bestow that grace upon us. And cause us, Father, to shine forth that good works that are seen through us. And as people see good works, Father, let it be good works that draw people towards you and not people away from you.
Amen.
We pray, Father, Lord, as a ministry, Lord God, you will cause us to shine brightly, Heavenly Father. Cause us to be the difference between what is darkness and what is light.
Amen.
And even as we continue in this work, Father, Lord, we say, Father, glorify yourself in our midst.
Amen.
We thank you, Lord God, and we bless you. We put the needs of the children before you, whatever their heart's desire may be. Today, Heavenly Father, because we have been obedient to your word, Lord God, meet us at our point of need.
Amen.
And cause us to come forth with a testimony.
Amen.
We thank you, Lord, we bless your name. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray.
Amen. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Lord Jesus Christ. Let us pray to God.
Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Lost.